Ladies and gentlemen, another great edition from the Kettle Nights podcast. I have with me my main man, Pierre Antoine Martini. Man, I love that name. It sounds so beautiful. And my main man is from French Guiana. He's a strong first elite and a beast tamer. So welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thanks for having me, Gregory. How are you
Awesome.
doing? So I saw your Nike kettlebell stuff. So
Yeah. Just a couple of days ago, just as a small side notice for those who are listening and watching, we got our Superflow kettlebells, 90 kettlebells, and now they just left for the whole world, just half of them, and the other half is now still residing in the gym because we restocked the gym, which was awesome. And funny thing, right? We had a conversation on Instagram about kettlebells and stuff, and we started following each other. And then we booked the podcast, which was like a month ago, and then I had to cancel it. And then I reached out to you again. I was like, brother, man, I have to cancel it again. But then we were so fast with the commissioning of the kettlebells that I was like, hey, man, let's do this. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you.
Thank you, Pete.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So give us your background. How did you get started with kettlebells? Are you a teacher right now? Do you take on clients? What are your your experience with kettlebells in general?
So I've been a professional soccer player when I was very young. So I've made all my formation at the OJ Tennis Academy when I was like 14 years old to 20. I didn't sign a professional contract in France. I did it in Scotland in second division. That was a very short. That was actually a very short career. I did 1 year. Then I get back to France and I start to. I did not give up, but I've made a choice based on any factors, and I started my diploma to be a strength and conditioning coach. So in France, it's 1 or 2 years. So you have to study to be able to legally do this profession. So, and I discovered kettlebell maybe around 2015, something like this, with Alexei Senart, which is now the head of Strong for France, and by the way, he's a master SFG now. So yeah, and so I did a few workshops before, but I didn't really understand how to use it. That was some kind of for me, it was a bit difficult at the beginning to figure out how to move that kind of weight, because the difference with kettlebells is the weight is like moving, and I didn't understand it at first. So I decided to book, I don't know how many workshops I've attended with him, maybe 6 or 7. So I booked like in 3 months, I did basically like 30 hours of kettlebell training.
Some intense coaching right there.
Yeah. And I spent maybe 1 year and a half like practicing. And in 2017, when I moved to French Guiana, the same year, I came back in Europe in Vicenza to pass the SFG1.
Wow.
So in 2017.
Let me just pause you there real quick, because that's actually, if people are listening and who are interested in getting certified, whether that be Strong First, IKFF, or I think even the IUKL, the Getaway Sport, the Kettlebell Sports institutions, I think they offer certifications as well. I'm not sure, but with the ones that we know, RKC, Strong First, IKFF, if you want to get certified, I would recommend exactly the path that you took. First, get the knowledge, understand the tool, and understand the philosophies behind it. Then put in the reps, and then get the certification. Because isn't it, that's at least my perspective, and a reason why I started our certification process, or why we started coaching people as well, or coaching trainers as well, is because I think it is a problem if you go up to a certification, you learn the tool, and then you have to pass a test. I think it is a better way of engaging in the test if you have had some basic and prior reps and some time with the tool. So what you did is exactly what I would do as well if I would do it again.
Yes, and my way of understanding it is like the work that you're putting at the beginning, the knowledge you have, the more time you spend practicing, the better you get, because you get the right information at the right moment.
Exactly.
And then you practice the right thing.
Exactly, man.
Practice makes permanent, and practice makes improvements. And if you have the correct knowledge and the correct answer, you can then going on your way, which can be RKC, Strong First, IKFF, or maybe in the future there is maybe some new organization. But you need coaching first, because the return of investment you have, if you decide to practice kettlebell for the next 20, 30 years, which is my objective, which is my goal, the return on investment that I did like 7 years, 8 years, and in 20 years, it will be maybe 30 years, the return of investment will be very high. So it might have a cost. Yes, it is a cost of money, time investment, attention, maybe some fatigue too. But if you really decide to go in this way, that's the right path. Exactly.
It's what people have to understand, that the reps that you put in is, there is this saying that goes, knowledge is power, right? And then I think I've heard another saying that goes, yes, but there's even a better term of describing this, and that is, applied knowledge is power. Because just knowing the stuff is one thing.
It's not enough.
But practicing it, I love what you said there. Practice makes permanent. What a great description. And I had the same experience. Exactly the same. Before I got the knowledge from Steve Carter back in June 2019, I was playing around with kettlebells, and I was treating it like a weird shaped dumbbell. And after this epiphany moment and these realizations that I got from Steve, the reps were just I was slowly perfecting the lifts one by one by one by one. So it's exactly what you need. You need the proper knowledge first, and then you put in the reps.
I agree. And I think that's like Bruce say, knowing it's not enough, you must do, or like you must apply. And the not the opposite, but this is also true, that some people they accumulate knowledge, they accumulate certification, but they do not apply stuff. They do not apply stuff on themselves. They do not apply stuff with their clients. And you can accumulate and put like some really nice stuff on the wall and say, oh yeah, I'm an expert. But actually, how many hours, how many reps, how many clients
Exactly, man. Yeah.
did you coach with your applied knowledge? So that was really important for me to really think about knowing is not enough. You must apply, and practice is permanent.
Wow. you are mentioning something that I had some mental gymnastics on. I was thinking about this because I think you probably know some people who always accrue certification for certification for certification,
Yeah.
and they're like pinballs. They go to the left, to the right, up, down. It's like boom, 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 boom. And the way I describe this type of person is, I think there's two types of students. One is the learning student. That's the guy or the gal that learns stuff and then applies it. And then you have the eternal student. That's the guy or the gal that learns from thousands of different angles, but never actually applies what he or she learned. And while I think it is a great thing to learn from various corners, you also have to make a mark. It's, hey, just stop right there and now put this thing to work that you are getting used to. And what you're also mentioning is this, it's almost a sad realization that I had by doing these critique videos on YouTube. You know, sometimes people send me stuff. Now I don't even have to do the research. Sometimes I have to do it, but many people now send me stuff, then I check it out, and then I do a video about it. And I don't bash them. I don't try to talk bad about them, but I want to show them the proper way of doing it, right? So what I've realized that sometimes I get one of these videos from a subscriber, I check it out, and my immediate reaction to the video is, this person who's demonstrating the kettlebell swing there, or a clean or a press or whatever have you, must be a beginner who just got started.
Yeah, sure.
But come to find out, these people have actually been teaching kettlebells for years on end. And then I'm like, how can you be teaching this stuff for so long and you're still making beginner mistakes years later? That's something that's kind of a sad realization that I had.
Yeah, and you mentioned how those the individuals. Okay, I will define it as professional ADHD, like attention deficit, like
Yes.
yeah. I mean, like that's a sad
Professional
story.
ADHD. That's a good
Yeah.
one. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not trying to make punchlines, but like that's how I see things. Like you if you want to get really good at something, how many years I don't know, a weightlifter coach has to coach weightlifting. Okay, first it has to be a weightlifter, then it has to okay, think about my goal is being a coach. So I have to get the eye, the relationship with the athletes, and have all different paradigm. And I have to retrain myself with what I know. So, but first, I need like to practice and be good at what I'm doing. At least like technically, you don't have to be like a gold medal strong, but you have like to practice a lot to have a deeply intrinsic understanding of what you're teaching. But you have to really learn a bunch of other stuff to be able to teach it. So that way it's already really difficult. So if you ping pong those okay, so one time is kettlebell, one time is barbell, one time is body weight, and there is no shame to see there is the other tools or other ways. That's fine. And every tool has, even when you're doing, even you had in a podcast a really good kettlebell athlete. What is his name?
I've had a couple of them. Probably
Yeah.
Valery Fedorenko.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
The like piston
Yeah,
robot guy with double
I think
32.
He came in, I think he was coming in the West, or he was making a name in the West after Pavel and John Duquesne from
Yeah,
Dragon Door really blew up with RKC. I think then Pavel
yeah,
invited Valery Fedorenko, and I think Valery Fedorenko
yeah,
then also started pushing his own idea.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you're talking
So
about him, yeah, honored
yeah,
master of sport.
so
Yeah,
even this guy, he's like doing barbell stuff and
yeah,
and
yeah,
and and bodyweight stuff. There is
yeah.
no problem to see what other way is. It's like in martial arts, you might be a striker, but you might go to see some jujitsu stuff,
Mm-hmm.
or you
Mm-hmm.
might go to see some wrestling stuff. I don't know. But once you have one way, and you want to be really, really good at that way, uh, it is a journey. And those people who have kind of attention deficit disorder, and they just want to have a lot of certification, is giving you also the illusion of knowledge. I know a little
Ooh,
bit of everything.
that's a good one.
I can place
Mm-hmm.
some keywords, and now I'm an expert on barbell, long mile, weightlifting. If I tell you in weightlifting, oh yeah, you have to do a second pull, then the trajectory of the barbell, because I read it in my manual, but I never practiced it.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives you the illusion. First, it gives you the illusion of knowledge, and it gives you also the illusion of progress. Because like if today I'm doing weightlifting, I will improve a lot in 1 year, but I still won't be able to coach it really deeply.
It, you, it's exactly how I see it as well. I fully agree, and I think you can. I love how you describe it with body weight, kettlebells, and barbells, for example. You can use these three different training modalities
Exactly.
in one session, and you can also grasp the different benefits that they give you.
Oh,
Most
sure.
definitely,
Yeah,
they're unique in a certain sense.
sure.
But as soon as it boils down to making things permanent, not just as a coach, but maybe even to a certain extent as a practitioner, you want to find your ground, right? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then understand, okay, this is the hill that I want to die on. Now, for example, I come from the bodybuilding type of world where, strength machines, building up building muscle, biceps curls, everything, and I loved it. After I've discovered kettlebells, I took a completely different route. And I just heard recently a guy, a very famous entrepreneur, his name is Alex Hormozi. He said, you have arrived when you know that the thing that you are doing right now is the thing that you want to do until you die.
Yeah.
And I think you have to have a certain age and a certain maturity to understand if that is the thing that you are engaging right now, that's the thing that you're going to do forever. But in my case, after discovering the kettlebell, even though I had a lot of experience with barbells and dumbbells and even strength machines, I've decided I want to hone in on the kettlebell. And there's another great quote from Dan John, which works perfectly in this discussion. And that is, he said, he once read a magazine of a famous movie reviewer. And the guy said the following: the movie always breaks apart when a supplemental idea becomes central.
The manager. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, that's 100%. So in our case now, as soon as you walk into our gym, the first thing that you see is all these colorful kettlebells.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. It's right front and center. And then you see a rack, you see some barbells, and you see some dumbbells, and you see a racetrack with a prowler, right? And now I describe it like kettlebells are now the central theme of how we train people, and barbells, dumbbells, and the racetrack and stuff is supplemental. And as soon as I pick up a barbell, and decide to teach something, I teach basics: a bench press, a deadlift, maybe even a barbell squat. But anything further than this, weightlifting, power snatch, clean and jerk, I step away from it, because I'm like, this is not my profession. Yes. Even though like you described it, even though I maybe understand the biomechanical reality of the exercise and what happens, I do not teach it. And one thing that is also fascinating is in the fitness world, and I'd love to get your opinion on this. In the fitness world, there is this idea that the trainer doesn't have to look the part. And if you walk around saying, this is one of the few industries where we have to carry our profession on our sleeves, visible, people get upset and people feel offended, because they're like, listen, I don't look the part, but I still teach or I still coach people. And I've had massive discussions on this with different folks. And I'm always like, listen, I think the tree has to be recognized by its fruits.
Yeah.
And that's especially with a visible niche in the economic space that is fitness. What do you think about this?
Okay. Without going too deeply on political stuff and philosophical stuff, I would say it depends, and I will develop. For example, if you take the Rest in Power, Sir Louis Simons. If you take Louis Simons, at this
West Side Barbell,
if you take West Side Barbell and Louis Simons at the very end of his life, he might not look like a coach, and this is maybe one of the greatest minds of 20th century when it comes to strength and conditioning, right? So exactly. I think maybe at a certain age, maybe you might have what you did before might be more important when you're 60 or 70. Dan John, it's still very athletic. It is in the 60s. It's still looking very athletic, but you can compare it at a 35 years old influencer, and you can't really judge also a book I discover in this context. That's my opinion. But if you took Dan John 30 years ago, he was pressing 10 times a beast and doing snatch with like 140 kilos. So he has his feats when you have your age. So it depends. But if you have, and I have a question, is it physically like your appearance, or it is the way you move and the way you're doing the exercise that you want to coach? Because with Instagram and some of the chemical enhancements, you can look very great with a very good diet and a little bit of training. You can still look great by fitness standard, but not be able to demonstrate the exercise. So I think the answer is more like it depends, like Dan John would say. It depends your age. It depends on what you are teaching. If you're teaching kettlebells and you see you have a great physique, you have great abs, great you are cut, you have great clothes, you smell good. I don't know, but you have the idea that you smell good, and you're doing the exercise wrong. And I saw a lot of people who's looking great, but doing the 100%. Demonstrating the things poorly, or even demonstrating the things okay, but the cueing is not on point. So that might have some great area. I would say it depends.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree. I always keep this in mind, and I always say legendary status is exempt from this rule.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
If you have achieved like Lewis Simmons, rest in power, most definitely, or Mark Ripito from Starting Strength.
Starting Strength,
right?
yeah.
So these are folks who are now in their 60s or maybe even 70s, and they don't look the part, in parentheses. It doesn't matter because this is legendary status. Most of us have not achieved legendary status yet. So we still have to put in some work. Yeah, we hope so to do one day. Yes, most definitely.
Man.
Most definitely, yeah. But here's the thing, and I want to break it down not exclusively on the physical realm, the way you look, but the way you perform. This is even more important, especially with a functional apparatus like the kettlebell is, because you can have your 25-year-old influencer, enhanced or not, maybe just with awesome genetics, doing some pressing and then some lat pull and then some chest flies, and the guy or the gal looks great, awesome. But here's the key: most of the time it maybe doesn't even transfer to real life, which is a sad thing. I remember I was the bodybuilding type, split training type dude, picking
Arnold.
up Arnold type training, right?
Yeah, I know.
Picking up a 16, and it killed me. And I will never forget this. I picked up the 16 when Steve Cotter, I love to share the story. When Steve Cotter told me when we set the deal to have him fly into the gym, right? I flew him in from San Diego. He came to certify Angie and me. And I remember the prerequisites for the test that I have to take. And I wanted to do level 1 and level 2. And level 2 was 40 jerks with double 20s and 100 snatch with one arm switch.
Okay.
And I remember, I was like, 40 jerk if you put the kettlebell down, you haven't passed the test. All right. Okay. Done. And I remember
that's challenging.
Challenging. I picked up. It's actually a typical biathlon in the kettlebell sport world. That's jerk and snatch. If you combine these two, it's a biathlon, so to speak.
Okay.
So I remember picking up the double 20s, and I was like, I texted him. I was like, Steve, that's impossible. And then he gave me a roadmap and a plan to work out and with some training, and then I managed it. But it's just a completely different beast, a completely different tool. So, of course, that's a very important distinction. Just because you look the part doesn't mean that you know how to swing a kettlebell, for example. But what I'm trying to say is, if you claim to be a coach, or I even go a step further, a long-time practitioner dishing out advice on your socials, and your technique, your skill is not there where it's supposed to be, at least in the eyes of a true professional, then I think you don't look the part, even as well.
I agree. I agree 100% of what you say. You can't be a coach, and I think, and let me ask you what you think too. You can't be a coach without being a long-term practitioner also, and that is okay. I know you like Musashi Miyamoto, because you have the workout on Musashi. Yeah, okay.
The Japanese warrior. Oh,
yeah. I got the book of 5 rings. Yeah, that's the book of 5 rings.
Le traité des 5 roues.
Le traité des 5 roues in French. So.
What's that? What's that? Le traité. Le traité de.
Le traité des 5 roues.
And what's that in English? Le traité. Le traité.
Le traité des 5 roues and in English it's the book of 5 rings. In English.
Roux. Ring. Okay. Le traité des 5 roues. Yeah. And that's from Miyamoto.
Yeah.
He wrote this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Writing
he
it
wrote
down.
the Dokodo and many other stuff. But like, this is a really nice book on strategy, but you can also apply for real life and even for kettlebell training. He say it's it's 1,000 days to learn the skill, to learn the technique, and it's 10,000 days to to how do you say that? Like to polish it. So
Yeah, yeah.
1,000
Oh,
days
that's a
to
good one.
learn, 10,000 days to polish.
Exactly. Ooh,
So
yeah.
you never you never you never stop learning. Uh, it's um, it's it's a long-term process, and as long as you stop being a student, you stop being a good coach too, because like things evolve. I mean, like look, before 1998, there is very few kettlebell in the West. Then it comes like Pavel, then it comes like Steve Kohler, and now you don't have art style of soft style or competition. You have guys like you or guys like me doing like hybrid style, because like and we have small talk last time about like you are not using the word hard style and soft style, but maybe like high
Exactly.
intention. And yeah,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
so this mentality, these findings are like the result of a perpetual research of knowledge.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so if you really want to be a good coach, okay, you have to look good. Fine. That's more like marketing stuff to attract people, but that's what retains people, and what gives them value is what you provide. And you can
100%.
provide,
Yeah.
and you can have like new ideas. Now there is, okay, I would like to have your opinion on kettlebell flows, because or even like kettlebell juggling. I have my own idea, but I would like to know your opinion about it also. But even that, you can have those like hybrid style ideas if you study hard style and if you study soft style, and you have to be in this research of perpetual improvement and knowledge. That's how you
Yeah.
do stuff as a coach.
It you're describing it in such a beautiful way. I just recently I watched a video from a guy who said, I think his slogan was "Humans are dumb" or something like this, and he said, "We never invent things. We are just pursuing an idea."
Yeah.
So it's not, and I love how he said it. He said, "It's not that one day somebody woke up and decided I'm going to make a camera now." But this evolved from I don't know. He mentioned something from the Chinese back in, I don't know, Anno Domini, right before Christ, when they did something, some lighting behind a I don't know what it was, some kind of tissue, and then they saw images were moving, and from there the camera was born, right? So
Yeah.
but it took hundreds of years. The same with the Wright brothers, who were the first who took flight. It's not that they came up with the idea, hey, let's just fly. It is a perpetual pursuit of
It's a
knowledge.
continuum. Yeah.
I love how you describe it, and it's
It's a continuum.
exactly
Yeah.
it's a continuum. It's what I experienced with kettlebells 100%, because I heal so much into this stuff that I find, and I talk to people and I read stuff and I do stuff and I try and I apply it with our own clients as well. And then I get feedback from all around the world. You know, even though YouTube comments have a bad name for them, I get great comments from people from all around the world. There were some comments that I have learned from. Of course, some comments are sometimes a little bit harsh, but even then you have some nugget of truth in there. So my learning process goes through the roof. And exactly, it's because I invest so much time into working with the tool, I then discover that there's new ways, or maybe even some more potential in different areas or different directions.
And
100%.
again, I agree 100%. And the we we discussed just earlier about how mentors, great techniques, knowledge is important. And it's also important to have not a clear path, but to have a direction where to walk.
Exactly.
It's really important. And it doesn't matter if you start with IKFF or no, if you start with sports style or if you start with hard style, as long as it gives you information or what kind of direction, what author you have to read, which people you have to look. And for example, you and me are starting in very different styles. You start with sports style, I start with strong first half style. And now we are kind of like crossing each other. So you start to implement very high tension with very heavy weights, and I'm starting to implement also what I'm consider like lightweight for me with a more relaxed style, and thinking about, okay, how can it be more relaxed? Because let me tell you something. I've attended in 2000, like 2 years. It was not like 2 years ago. Like maybe like 1 year and a half. I've attended like Sinister, okay, in front of Sir Brett Jones, great teacher, another legend, and I have 95 reps on the swing tests with the 48. Okay,
Wow.
I can swing a 68 with one hand at correct 8 at like maybe like standard weight. So strength is really not an issue for me. What was an issue is like the crispation, the tension that I've put it in each swings was too high. And I've also could have a little bit, maybe not hiking because it's not authorized, but maybe changing slightly the angle of the swing to make it like more sport style, maybe a bit more like quad dominant. And with those like relaxed technique and those like more with a less hinging style swing, like in the sport style, I might have been able to do it. And that's my way to go right now. And say,
awesome.
Maybe each set, and even in each set, the swing might be a little bit different. And it's been proved also that in repetitive task, you don't have really the same trajectory. So each swings, I think you have the discussion with the
Fedorenko?
Not Fedorenko, with the old sir.
Dr. Michael Yes's?
Yes.
The biomechanist?
Those, Yes. Wow. Yes. You have those like with that very knowledgeable sir. And he say like each swing is really not the same. So if you don't want to get tired, so maybe there is another way to do it. So I'm exploring it that way. And it has been since a great journey for me.
Awesome.
Even in strength, I made improvements. So we have very different start, and you see that we kind of joining. You take ideas of high tension stuff, and I take ideas from maybe a more relaxed style. Because that's something that I lack.
It's 100%.
Because that's something that I may lack at this moment. So yeah, I agree with you.
I always say, no, I have to correct this. I recently heard this and now I use it. You don't use a sprinting technique for a marathon.
Yeah, sure.
And you don't use a marathon technique for a sprint. So that's basics. But you can still do both. And depending on your, I would say, of course, with the extremes, it's always a lot of genetics, but depending on your goals and where you want to go, there is crossover. And that's exactly where this hybrid idea comes from.
Mm.
So in the matter of the swing, understanding that the relaxation process is one thing that gives you more capacity to swing for longer sets of time. Of course, that's one thing. And then
yeah,
and
I will say also,
yeah.
yeah.
Keep going.
Finish it,
Yep.
please. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but something crossed my mind.
Yeah, say it.
Yeah, and it also true for speed and power that relaxation is really important, because if you're too tense, you can't swing a kettlebell really fast. So it is both way. If like in strong first, so I'm not a team leader in strong first, so I won't talk like for strong first, but in strong first it says like high tension. It's like yin and yang. You need both. So speed is also relaxation. So like if you want to get powerful, you have to get some speed. So relaxation is also very important.
Yeah. And I went a little bit down the rabbit hole to find out why relaxation is important. And I think I am paraphrasing what Dr. Yuri Verkhoshansky said, I think one of the most famous Russian sports scientists out there. And he said, if you're always too tight, your muscle, if you stay too tight and don't allow relaxation, the nutrients, the CO2, the air is not able to go through your muscle, or not able to reach your muscle as well, because it's not as perforated. However, if you are relaxing a little bit more, the muscles are able to take up more nutrients. So I think I'm paraphrasing. I might be off a little bit. I think this is how Dr. Yuri Verkhoshansky describes that even in powerful and explosive stuff, you have to understand the relaxation process as well. And I think we don't have to look any further than to weightlifting. I mean, look at Lu Xiaoyan, for example, or just these. I think his name is such a complex name. He's from Georgia. I think Talakashala, something like this. I follow him. Right? Yeah. Yes. I follow him. I follow him on Instagram. Big guy.
Enormous guy. Yeah.
Big belly. Yeah. And I think he just broke another world record. And you see, even with the big guys, they lift the weights. And I love how this is even how I realized some biomechanical fundamentals of weightlifting, because they always have, sometimes they show the lift on Instagram, on their Instagram accounts, and then they also show the super slow motion.
Yes.
And in the super slow motion, you see exactly what happens.
Everything, yeah.
So they pull the weight up, and then as they go into the clean, whether that be a in the squat position or a power clean on top, they relax, because they have to jump drop so that the barbell is almost frozen in time and space. And that's the moment when they have to go under the weight, catch it, go up, and then they have to relax again. So these guys move up to 200 or 250% of their body weight. And these are the strongest ever. So these guys relax as well. And the reason why I've stopped using these descriptions of the styles is because it somehow, at least to me, implies that you have to follow a tradition rather than following a goal. And I don't like this. I consider I consider it the following. If you have a goal, and that is, hey, I want to become stronger, right? Then you have to move accordingly. I cannot run a marathon for 5 years and expect to become as strong as possible. It just won't happen. But then the other way around, if I want to build some solid endurance, or even strength endurance, or even starting strength, depending on the different types of strength that Dr. Yuri Verkhoshansky coins, and even Dr. Michael Yes's coins, as soon as this goal shifts, then the biomechanical realities of the exercises and the execution shifts as well. And I don't care about tradition. I only care about goals and intent. So that's why I came up with this idea saying intent is more important than style. So, and that's one of the gripes that I have, for example, with the snatch test, for example, of RKC or Strong First. And that is, if you don't allow a person to not exhibit proper biomechanical realities or fundamentals of an exercise that allows them to go high volume. And I don't care what anybody says, anything that is above 50 reps is high volume to me. Then you limit the body's capacity to work properly. That's why I don't like the idea. However, and I have some big questions about the Beast Tamer stuff. As soon as we walk into this territory, where it's like, listen, your goal is to do a pistol squat with a 48 kg get up, let me know how you get there. This sounds really fascinating. Because then you also have to apply different ideas and different mechanics than I have, for example, with a long cycle or a jerk with double 24s or double 28s. For example, today I did a jerk with double 28s. And for my body weight, that's 60% of my body weight. And it challenges me.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, and that challenges me most definitely. But I am sure that I also did some 32s as well. Even if I become very good at a 32 kg jerk, I know it will give me some fundamentals, but I still have to do a specified program in order to become a Beast Tamer. Yeah. So you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So what is your question about like the
Beast Tamer stuff? Yeah, for example, how did you prepare? Or okay. Another question. What was the biggest tool that helped you get there? I'm assuming it wasn't only kettlebells, but I might be wrong.
So okay. I do think if you have a precise goal,
yeah.
For example, okay, that could be a biathlon kettlebell. That could be the Beast Tamer. That could be the Sinister. If you have a defined goal with rules, with strict rules, first you have to define what have I to do? What rules am I following? That's very important because in the Beast Tamer, rules are very strict. You have to clean the bell. You can cheat clean it. You can cheat clean, but it has a distinct pose on your rack. So you have to pose it and you have to wait for the command. So yes. So first, if you start training with bouncy press, you will not pass.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah,
makes sense. A push press, right? A push press or something like this.
Not like a push press. Like here, the bell has to stop.
Yeah,
like in the rack.
Yeah,
and you can have a down path before the press.
Interesting.
So
here,
this is what it can go down. It's like it's a deadlift or like a bench press. If when you're pushing, if it stops, it's okay. If you go down, you can't. So now in the rack, you there, you press.
It stops, right? And from this position,
you have to wait for the
downward path. Yeah. You have to wait and then
press,
go up.
And then you press without any downside.
Okay, interesting.
You can play with it. You can, for example, you can clean and really get your belt a bit higher and then load the lats and then stop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You can do that also.
Okay.
There is also a technique like this. Some like to do like a regular clean and then they stop the belt here and then they store the energy and then they clean. And then they press. So you have to know the rule. If I want to do gear void sports competition, I have to know what equipment that I have in my disposal. If I'm lifting with a belt or shoes, so first you have to know what are the rules. In the tactical pull-up, you have to stay immobile, and then you have to pull the weight, and the bar has to touch or be at this level. You can be at this level. You have to be there.
Wow. Yeah.
On my attempt for the beast tamer, I touch it. I touch it there. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
I have arms that allows it.
Mhm.
I have a very long humerus, so I can pull very far. And on the pistol squats, you have to stay immobile, go down, go up without a pause. That's fine. And you have to wait for the command down. So you can do boom, boom, and then lose your balance and go that way. So very strict rules. So you have to train according with the rule first. And after that, if you have a specific goal, you have a specific program. So
exactly.
How I designed it, it was first, I make sure I had a double at 44. But that was like very comfortable with 44, even a triple with 44 at the press.
And the 44 kg, right?
Yes. Yep. The pull-up was not an issue. It was just like maintenance. The pistol squat, with all my years as a soccer player, as a goalkeeper, I have very good leg strength. Yeah, I was a goalie. So I had very good leg strength and power. So I trained it like for balance more, knowing, and I didn't go really that heavy, maybe a 32 to 36, something like this. And on the day, I've tested at 40 before, and I knew if at 40 it was like kind of easy, 48 will pass. But the most difficult stuff was definitely the press.
Yeah,
this for me. So it was like I decided to train 2 months before. But before that, I was very I trained double press. I trained the Zercher squats. I trained a lot of rows. I trained dragon flags. I trained hanging straight leg raise. So it gave me really the kind of the GPP, the base, the where all the muscle has to be like strong. You have to be strong in your stomach. You have to be strong in your legs. You have to. Does you have the requirements in flexibility too, or in mobility?
Yeah.
So you have to check all those stuff, and then if you want to do a specific task, you need a specific program. So I designed it. I've decided to do a set of press, then a pull-up, then a pistol squat, and that was the order that I was doing for the beast tamer. So during 2 months, it was like, I think it was like 9 weeks. I designed a program according to Plant Strong. So please, I have the manual here. Yeah. So
awesome. Yeah.
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 So it is, without digging in it, it is no correlation between intensity and volume, and it crossover like this, but at the end it works. So I had one set of press, one set of pull-up, and one set of pistol squats, and most of my session 2, 3 to 4 times a week was just dedicated to this, and all the other stuff was just like more like prehab, more like make sure I doesn't have muscle imbalance. Maybe some
GPP stuff, huh? Yeah.
Some GPP stuff. I sacrifice also a little bit of cardio to be able to maintain,
which you have to.
Which
this is also important to know. You cannot become maximally strong and have the best endurance ever. It's
No.
it is a give and take, and depending on the road that you are embarking on, which we talked about, right? It you have to sacrifice maybe one or the other, especially if you go into the extremes. So a beast tamer is extreme, a marathon is extreme. So if you go into either extremes, you have to understand that you have to sacrifice one or the other aspects of human performance. And what I think is so fascinating about these strength sports is the capacity that the human body is able to build is so interesting and so intriguing. And I think that's one of the reasons why maybe powerlifting is more popular, or to watch it even, right? Or strongman stuff is more popular than marathon running. And it's also one of the reasons why kettlebell sport will probably never really take off like CrossFit did, because it's not glamorous. It's boring watching a guy doing 10 minutes of snatch. It just is. Unless you are highly interested in the sport, or you are a kettlebell fanatic. But I'm talking about normal people, regular people. They rather tend to watch CrossFit because it's way more glamorous. Right. So
I agree, but I will give you a counter example from example, like biking, like Tour de France.
Yeah, Tour de France. Yeah.
I find that very, very boring.
Yeah.
But
me too.
But some people.
That's a good point.
Find it and like.
Formula One is the same. I think it's boring.
Formula One. I can understand that, because it's like everyone's driving a car and everyone's wants to drive a car very fast.
Car. That's right.
And as man, we like to have the bigger car, the fastest car.
You're right. I agree.
Some in the head of a lot of people, when you're very competent at driving, it tells a lot. When you have a high competence of driving as a man, and maybe as a woman too, but as a man, it's like, oh yeah, he's a man, he's driving fast. I never heard that with a bike, but like, I do not understand the hype, for example, on biking. I have a friend whose bike every weekend, he has those like special bike who costs a lot of money with that, like,
these race bikes.
Slim,
slim frame and very lightweight, right?
Exactly. And it seems to be a very hard sport too. I mean, I can see guys who's like putting the work, and even in French Guiana, you have like race you have bike race, and it's taken very seriously. So I do not know. I don't know if one day,
let me just interrupt real quick. I think the reason is because it's more accessible, right? You have a street, almost everybody has a bike, right? Or many people have. So you have, let's say, like, there's more relation to I think it's boring too, but there's way more relation than to kettlebells. All right.
Yeah.
And one of the other aspects of kettlebells, it is completely hardcore. A 10-minute set with double 24s, it breaks you down to a certain extent. And I'm not talking bad. That's what sometimes people misunderstand, right? When you critique something, they're like, oh, you don't like it. No, I think it's awesome. I think, like I said, I think high tension techniques are awesome. I think high volume techniques are awesome, but I also have an opinion. Many people, for example, a couple of people asked me, why don't you compete for kettlebell sport? And I'm saying, well, because I don't think it's worth it. It's not worth my time. My time is worth learning more about this, that stuff, working with our clients, building our business. This is where and taking care of my family. These are things that require more time. So I'm not willing to take away time from this to prepare for a competition. Maybe one day when I'm caked out and have so much money that I can't count, then I'm like, okay, you know what? Now I'll dedicate a year to a kettlebell competition. Yeah, maybe then. But now I don't think it's worth my time. And here it comes again. I love a little bit of variety, even when it comes to the basics. I love barbells, like we talked in the beginning. I love a lot of stuff. And yes, for example, a jerk is every week, every Friday we do jerks. Every Friday we do long cycle. Every Friday we do deadlifts. I love these exercises. Yes, even though deadlifts is not a kettlebell sport exercise in that regard, but I love it. Yes, but I'm not willing to switch out a Turkish get up, for example, or on Saturday, we're vibing a little bit, right? Just do something a little bit of this, a little bit of this. On Monday, we always sit down, Angie and me, and then we have a discussion. What are we going to do in the workout? Because we film it and then we tape it, right? So I don't want to sacrifice this. So it's not, I'm digressing a little bit, but it's not my point to become an athlete. But with the bike stuff, I think it's because it's more accessible.
Yeah.
But it's boring too.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, for the athlete parts, it really depends if you are a coach of kettlebell sports.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Okay, if you want to train, okay, I'll give you an example. I got some clients who wants to learn the barbells, the barbell moves, with in mind that going into their first powerlifting meet. And that's why I told, actually, she's a lady in her 40, maybe early 50s. And you say, okay, I want to start a new sport, a new adventure, and I want to be able to do my first competition of powerlifting. And that's what I told her. I told her, okay, I can give you the rules, because I know the rules of powerlifting. I can give you the basic knowledge on how to do the movement safely and how to progress until you are ready to take a coach to give you all the things you will have to know during the day of competition, how mentally you will prepare, how physically you will prepare too, what kind of effort you will have to put, how tired you will be, because that's a lady. She has a huge business here, and that's not in my competence. My competence is I can teach you safely how to bench press, how to deadlift, how to squat. And when you are ready to, okay, go to see a powerlifting coach who's coaching for first competition of powerlifting, then my job is finished.
Yeah.
And then, like, if you want to learn more about kettlebell, why not? If you want to learn more about basic bodyweight stuff, okay. But my role is finished when you know how to do safely the movement and you have obtained a certain level of strength that allows you to think about going into your first to even to take a coach for thinking about your first powerlifting competition. I'm not a powerlifting coach. And that's how I say things. And if you are not the athlete, if you are not the coach, coaching the specialty, why? And also, as a practitioner, if you, there is no competition. Also, there is our-style competition. I think it's Poland or something like this, but the only one I know. But does it worth the time? Does it worth the money? Traveling? Does it worth the money? Does it worth the attention, the energy?
Yeah.
I don't think, for me, I don't think so. But if someone wants to take this path because he has so much money that he can, in so much time that he can do it,
well,
fine.
Go ahead. I think, just recently the kettlebell sport, I think World Championships, I don't even follow it this closely. I think they were held in, I don't know what it was. I don't know. And, one lady from Switzerland, I know her, she went too. And I just discussed this with Angie. I was like, yeah, that costs you the flight, the time, hotel, the stay, you compete, and you don't earn a dime. No money involved, no nothing. It's
just passion.
It's passion, yes. And while
that's just passion.
what I think it's awesome to follow your passion. In my age, and being
Yeah.
where I am right now,
Yeah.
I cannot pursue passion and
Over business. Yeah.
sacrifice exactly important aspects of my daily business that need attention. It's just impossible. And because it doesn't pay. And that's not the
Yes.
only reason. And one thing that you mentioned is the journey with your client who wants to do her first powerlifting meet. I think that's the sign of a great coach who says, listen, I can take you here, but if you want to progress any further, I have to refer you out to somebody.
Sure.
I do this all the time with people who reach out who want to go into kettlebell sport competitions. I tell them, listen, I have a huge network. I know a lot of guys and gals in the world who can prepare you in a way that you will really have your best shot at the competition. I don't do it because, first of all, we talked about this. Yes, I practiced the lifts. Yes, I did my 10-minute sets in practice. Yes, I did my biathlons. I did my certs. Yes, but I never stood on this wooden platform to compete. Number one, I never had the feeling there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And number three, I am not well suited. Maybe I'm informed, yes, but since I didn't take that journey myself, I think I'm doing you a disservice preparing you for a competition, even though I know what you might need,
yeah.
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd rather give you into the hands of somebody who's so experienced that I know for a fact, this is the best route that you can take now.
And I think that's also maturity as a person.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good one.
That's maturity as a person. And that's, wait 1 second.
Oh, yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
That's maturity as a person. And that's the sign that you are competent in your field. Because being able to see that, like, okay, in kettlebells, I know what I'm doing up to a certain point. I know that, okay, I'm confident with my ability to teach, but there is another world. This is totally another paradigm. And I know that I'm very competent in this area, so I can recognize that I'm not in others.
That's a good one.
And by the way, when you're not knowledgeable enough, you don't know what you don't know. And that's very dangerous. When you think you know, but you don't know what you don't know.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Even then, I mean, like, I'm still reading, you named him like Dr. Arkoshansky for science and practice of strength training, I guess, is this book. All the time I say, okay, so I think I understood, but like, I don't.
Almost,
so
it's
like,
almost impossible to understand.
It's like,
I think, and just to stay on that book for a second, I just recently read a good comment about this. Most of the work from Dr. Yuri Verkhoshansky is translated from Russian into English. And this is such dry material that sometimes not just the meaning might get lost in translation, but also, exactly, but also, and you probably have noticed this. I've read, I think, 3 of its books from Yuri Verkhoshansky, and certain sentences and structures don't make any, they make sense, but you have to think your way into the sentence to make any sense of it. And I think that's a big issue with the translation stuff. But I get you 100%. And how important is this? I think we all have to practice this, knowing what we don't know, right? Or how did you say it? We don't know what we don't know, right?
Yes, it's like not knowing what you don't know is it's dangerous. It's dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because like that's and there is still things that we okay. And I like one of the one of the greatest author ever is also, I think you know it. It's called like Anti-Fragile from like
Anti-fragile
from Nassim Taleb.
Nassim Taleb. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man,
Yes,
I've heard so much
yeah.
stuff about this guy.
Oh man,
How's the book?
It's like it's a big book. There is a lot of information, and you have to read it at least 2, 3, 4,
Nassim
5
Taleb,
times.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Nassim
Nassim
Taleb.
Taleb. Yeah,
And
I really have to get that book. Yeah.
He talks about like interventionista. He talks like people who's like to make intervention and doesn't know about very complex structure and how the intervention could cause more harms. That's yeah. So
That's a good
and they don't
point
know that.
again. Yeah. Yeah.
For example, I don't making any political point, but for example, if you put pressure on your destitute government because you think like it's bad, you don't know what the repercussion could be. It's true for politics, it's true for finance, it's also true in medicine, and it's true for a lot of things. You might try to have you might try to do something, and sometimes it could cause more harm
Yeah. Yeah.
and benefits.
There's this one saying that goes, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions."
Tension, exactly.
Right? You are trying to, and for the fitness context or kettlebell context, it is so valuable. I remember when I got some coaching from Luca Corce from Canada, right? I
Great
think
guy.
he's
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Awesome guy.
He's a great coach. Yeah.
Yeah. So I took, I think, 2 or 3 lessons that have immediately improved my hard style or high tension swing, immediately improved my windmill, immediately improved my bent press, and immediately improved my get up. These core fundamental exercises that the hard style or strong first or RKC philosophy is known for. And I knew that. I knew the get up. I knew the high tension swing. I knew that stuff before. But I said, you know what? Let's just talk to a complete professional who does this thing all day long and who does even a 56 kg get up.
Yeah.
So let's listen
that,
to the guy. Yeah. Let's just listen to the guy and learn.
Right.
Yeah. So I knew in that regard, I could have taught, and we were teaching get ups in that regard. And then I realized some certain aspects of the get up where I even come up, I call it the revised get up. I came up with some of my own ideas now with the get up because I started to get a better understanding of the biomechanics. And this took me to a route where I really wanted to learn the biomechanics of the exercise so that you know what happens, at least on a surface level, with the human body. And even though I could have coached, and I did coach, my coaching was way better after I got these sessions with Luca. And I could have also stayed on my primitive level of understanding on these core exercises, teach it to everybody, and who knows what would have happened down the line with somebody who maybe, it's just a small thing. Maybe you hurt yourself in a certain instance, right? I mean, beginners don't pick up heavy weights, and I knew that from the beginning. But it just elevated my coaching skills to such a high level that I've realized there's so much more to certain exercises and ideas behind it than just the exercise by itself. And that's why sometimes I don't get I get frustrated a little bit and disappointed with coaches teaching certain exercises with, like you described it, you're missing the wrong cues and your demonstration is off. Why are you even instructing this? Why don't you stay in your lane? Or if you want to open up the lane a little bit, talk to the professionals and get the knowledge and put in the reps.
Yes. And there is also no shame in the willingness to learn from other people, and it also no shame to the willingness to teach to other people. So it doesn't matter if you're, because we all have been beginners. We all have been beginners as a practitioner and as a coach. And certainly, as a beginner coach, 7 years ago in kettlebell, may have done not some mistake, but now if I'm seeing myself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I had a call. So, if I see myself 7 years ago, I say, oh, that might be terrible. And I say, no, that's not terrible. That was the best I can do at this moment. As long as you don't put people in dangerous situation. Let's say, for example, okay, you didn't have your coaching with Luca. And then suddenly you start to say, okay, let me see how far I can progress into a get up. And you start playing with 32, 36, even 40 kilos. And I had students like this without coaching. Oh yeah, I'm doing a 40 kilo get up. He sent me the video. I was not shocked, but I was scared for him. Yeah. And I knew he was okay, but I saw 40 kilos like this. So imagine now you are a teacher, just like taking that path without any coaching. You try, and even if you're kind of strong, you can manage it still. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Exactly. Sneaking your way to maybe a 48 kilos, 48 kilo get up. But if you don't have the coaching or the willingness to learn from other people and to apply the knowledge, you could have hurt somebody by thinking, okay, I've done it that way, doing my stuff to 40 kilo kettlebell. And now I will teaching that way, but maybe the person in front of you is not gifted as you as an athlete. Maybe he's not interested as you for having a very good get up. And you teaching will miss some points. And then you've put people in dangerous situations.
As long as we don't put people in dangerous situations, we can teach something that is probably not even just the perfect way to teach it, but as long as we don't hurt them, I think that's a very good point, because we still have to learn, right? The coach has to learn, and
the coach has to learn.
We also have to make mistakes in order to improve. But as long as you have the understanding, that's a good point. And another thing that I see is also that you want to be recognized in the, let's say, like, area of expertise where professionals reside. You want to be recognized as somebody who knows his or her stuff. I think this is not so much that I care about what everybody thinks about me, but it's more about, I care about that professionals have a solid opinion, that not on a personal level. You can think, all right, Pierre, Antoine, or Gregory, these are idiots. But when you look at what they do, the coach's eye or the gifted eye knows, right? Real recognizes real. These guys put in the work. Even if you don't like them, it's solid what they do, right? I think even with singers, I say the same thing. I like his or her voice, but I think they're stupid. But doesn't take away from their gift, right? But that's another topic. So that's what I want to make sure as well, that I'm recognized as somebody who is solid in the eyes of the experts. And you've raised a very important point as well. As long as, at least that's how I understood it. You can correct me if I'm wrong. As long as we see this path to progress, your perpetual improvement as a coach, and even as a practitioner, everybody says this, man, 7 years ago, I looked like this. And I like how you coined it. That was the best I knew back then, and probably even the best I was able to do back then. But watch me as I have progressed. But so many, not just practitioners, but also coaches, stall in progression. And then you look back, it's like, listen, your 7 years ago swing still looks
Looks
like the one
like
today, I
it's
think
not possible. Yeah.
it is. The funny thing is, it is possible. It is possible that your stuff still looks the same. And you know what that teaches me? It teaches me one thing. You can write a book about the swing. That's awesome. You can give all the important cues. That's awesome. But I know one thing: you didn't put in the reps.
Sure.
It's just this, right? You haven't cemented the exercise in your nerve muscle system. That's why it looks like this.
And by the way, and that's our full circle here, it's like if you are doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you don't have any continuum, in strong first, they call that, I don't want to misquote, they call that the continuation of the learning process.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do a lot of stuff, have the illusion of knowledge. I know a little bit of this, I know a little bit of that. And you will fool only the ignorant.
The ignorant ones.
And
exactly.
I'm not saying ignorant in a bad way.
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
Okay, I'm ignorant in mathematics.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like more words. I like more relation with people. Yeah. That's what I'm studying.
Yeah.
At the moment, I don't know mathematics. I'm ignorant in mathematics. So it's not in a bad way, but you only fool ignorance. When you having those like, okay, I know a little bit of this, I know a little bit of that. First, you're fooling just the ignorant. And in the eyes of the master, of someone who's really put the time to perfecting his craft, you are, okay, I'm not looking at people downly or they are like badly. I can understand, but I do things that is the generalist misses something for me.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You can be whoever you want. You can be, and that's the saying of our friend like Musashi. He's saying that, like, and I like this philosophy. He's saying you can choose any way you want. You can be a merchant, you can be a writer, you can be a poet, you can be a warrior. You have your way, and you, even if you have the understanding of other way or other schools, if you are like martial arts, for example, you still try to really perfect your craft and knowing things deeply. Strong first, they call like one, I think like 1 inch wide, 1 mile deep. So that's why strong first deep. Yes, they dig very deep.
I see.
And by the way, my understanding of that thing is, does we really need as coaches, and I don't like the word coaches. In French, it's not the same as in English. I like the term like physical culture, because I think that's really a culture. That's you are
teaching stuff.
We are teaching stuff.
Yeah.
I use more the knowledge that I have how to take care of my body. To have a resilient body, to makes me able to go in life doing many things as I can with my body, with energy and vitality. I use more that knowledge than mathematics. So I think that's a culture, and we are teachers. And we need to have hundreds of tools, of hundreds of methods to teach to our students, to our clients? Does we really need that?
We actually do.
If you think if kettlebells, that's kettlebell fantastic. If it's weightlifting, That's a good school for your back.
Yeah.
Fantastic too. But we don't need that much of tool in volume. We practice what is necessary.
Exactly. And
practice what is necessary. Yeah.
What's also such a good point, I think Dr. Yes has raised this point, that there is not even a unified way of calling the exercises, right? You have somebody who says, this is a single hand farmer's walk. The other guy says, this is a suitcase walk, and so on and so forth. So I like how Dr. Yes is his big gripe with the fitness industry is that there is no governing body, so to speak, or or not as much as we'd like to be, a general idea or understanding of how things are supposed to be done and how things are supposed to be called. Everybody does his or her own thing, which I understand to a certain extent. Everybody wants to leave a mark, yes, and we see examples where if you leave your mark successfully, this can take you around the world and you can become legendary status. I get this. But at the same time, we also need a little bit of uniform. I think that's what you're saying. We don't need thousands of ideas, right? Yeah, we can have them. But when it comes to the teaching stuff and working with people, the basics are what count. Now, I really have to cut this off. But this one thing for the last couple of minutes that you said is about flows. You asked about flows. What is your take on flows? Really quick.
What is my take? Shortly. Okay. I've tried it myself a bit. Say how we can move. And I would say flows and I refer to more like stuff with rotations, stuff with maybe like juggling
involved. Yeah.
Yes. I'm not talking about like a kettlebell chain where you can do, for example, a clean, a squat, a press, then a windmill, then a bench press, then going to a squat, then going to a get up. That can be considered as a flow, but that's not what I'm referring to. I saying like some of fancy move with lightweight. For someone who can swing 80 kilo kettlebell doing flow with 16, I can see active recovery. I can see the playing side. It could be fun. It's important to play. It's important to have fun, even if you're
play.
Yeah. I mean, playing is like fun. I'm not just saying how you can make your training progress, because training is a process. You train with kind of an end goal, even if your end goal is just to be in shape and continuously practicing. That could be a goal. Continuing to
maintenance
practice for a very long time.
Exactly.
And practicing and refining the skills could be also a long-term goal. That's my very, very, very long-term goal is to be able to do what I'm doing at 60, 70, maybe.
Fully agree. Yeah.
More. But I don't see in the short term how you can, and I'm not a specialist on that, but I don't see how the short term, how you can proper train. It's good exercise. And Mark Ripperto, like, by the way, say he in a short clip, he say exercising is doing random stuff physically that could be hard or not, but a training, you have a goal in mind with a plan and how to obtain that plan. You want to train for the beast or you want to train for a biathlon, you want to train for
good.
So
I see.
I'm not saying how you can train ready for that. Maybe if you have a flow that you want to achieve with like double spin, I don't know how do they call that. I'm not against, I'm just saying that's not my stuff, and I don't know how you can how you can stimulate your whole system, because like that's kind of
my concern is
very 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 lightweight. I mean, 8 for girls and 16 or even 20 or
12. I think most guys use 12s for
so
their
that's
flow
active
stuff.
recovery.
For me too.
That's fun.
It's fun. I fully agree. I always say that the most popular flow ever created is the Turkish get up.
I agree too.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's an overhead lunge, it's a press, it's a half-lean windmill combined. And there are so many benefits in there. And you put your body in such advantageous positions, biomechanically speaking, that you also can load it fairly heavy and get a great stimulus. You can use a lightweight and go through the move for some dynamic feeling of training, or you can also go very heavy and achieve stuff, or even, strengthen, have the goal of strengthen your shoulders and stuff and become injury free and all these beautiful aspects that regular training give you. I agree on the fact that I consider flows like a mace. It's a supplemental idea. For example, mace training, I love it because it goes in the frontal plane, it goes into the rotational plane, which the kettlebell, which is most of the time in the sagittal plane, misses a little bit. So I think the mace is a great addition, but it's always supplemental. And flows as well, I consider them even less than supplemental in my book, because especially in training, and I think it depends on who we talk about. If we talk about our world, our kettlebell world, yes, there are maybe some people who can profit from the idea of flows. Yes, you said some active recovery or play. Awesome. Great. Mm-hmm. But as soon as we take this discussion to normal and regular people, this is where flows lose their steam, because they don't build strength. They don't build endurance. They are just play. And while yes, they might build strength, they might build endurance, but you're somewhere in between, which is not a bad thing. But here comes the other problem. Teach it to people. Teach it to regular people with very bad kinesthetic literacy. And I guarantee you in a second that you won't retain the clients. Most people just need training and working out. They need strength, health, endurance, and all that stuff. But they don't want to come into a session and have 30 minutes lectured on how to do an exercise. At least regular people most of the time don't.
Definitely,
so
yeah.
You have to use something that gives a lot of bang for the buck. Mm-hmm. You have to use something that gives a lot of return on investment. And it's not supposed to take as much as explaining, especially with the basics with beginners, that it takes away too much of the time that people actually need to train. So that's my stance on flows. I understand that people are totally into it, which I think it's cool. But
yeah, I also, yeah.
All right, especially on Instagram. But
yeah,
in my world, I don't see how a flow could trump a goblet squat, a swing, a press, a jerk, because these exercises are wired in a way to give your body the most bang for your buck. And the other stuff, while rotation is important, there might be some application, but then, hey, I always say rather do a windmill, right? Or do a bench press.
I mean, better off, rotation, right? Is important, yes. Anti-rotation, is more important than rotation.
Exactly.
Because
good point.
Okay, it's I hope there is no short clip them saying rotation is bad, and I know that
let's clip this.
Gate people that's running, or rotational people will say, oh, he's full of them, But for regular people, for the clientele that we have, I mean, you put people with high velocity stuff, with rotational intent, with rotational movements. You don't know if the movement occur at their hips, at their spine. They have very bad kinesthetic awareness. So I want to improve my rotation. Okay, do a one-arm deadlift with some weight on it. You will be fine, and then work on a one-handed swings or snatch or clean. Yeah. And for 99% of people that we train, that will be sufficient. Yeah. That will be enough. Definitely. Yeah. And if it's enough,
brother, I really have to cut you off because my client now rolls in. And
okay. Sure.
On a last point, anti-rotation is more important than rotation. That's a good point. Really one. Awesome. So, hey,
Okay.
Pierre-Antoine, I really enjoyed the discussion. It was awesome having you on.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
We have way more stuff to discuss, most definitely. So we have to do
I
it
really
again.
appreciate and thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Yeah.